I'm Ruth, Sage Gardens and Art Studio, and I put up a little video or a clip of a video about the fact that my kids are independent and they, have gone off all over the place. I have one daughter who lives here in town, but both of my sons live either out of the country or on the other side of the country. Joel lives in Abu Dhabi, and Jacob lives in South Carolina. And I talked about how I grew up taught to be independent. I was thinking about how some of the different YouTubers have kind of sayings that they have adopted for their lives and as a theme, and my family definitely had one, and it was a kind of weird one. It was Kent lost his pants in the cornfield, and it was never explained to us what that means other than the fact that you better try it yourself, or lost his pants in the cornfield. We always assumed as kids that it meant we were going to get our butts whipped if we didn't at least try to do something ourselves on our own without help. Not that if we couldn't do it we wouldn't get help, but that we had to at least try. So we were always encouraged to be independent and do something on our own. And we were taught how to do stuff, but then once we learned, then you need to do it on your own. So I can remember after I was an adult, I was living in a different state than what my parents were living, and I had a bicycle that the brakes were not working. And I called my dad and explained it to him, and he said, "Well, did you try to fix it yourself?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did, and I wouldn't be calling you if I could have figured it out." So, we were encouraged to try it on our own, to do it ourselves. So, anytime I've had to learn something, I tried to figure it out on my own, and it's made me an independent person. And as an adult, I didn't live in the same town as my parents for very long. I had a girlfriend that we moved in together, and both of us decided to move out of the town to a bigger town. My parents lived in a little town in Humiston, Iowa. It was like 800 people in the town. It was little. And in order to get a better job, we moved to Des Moines, the two of us, and we lived in a woman's dorm. Back then, it's probably still there. It's a woman's dorm, and you can rent a room. It's kind of like you live in a dormitory, and it had people just couldn't go in there. You couldn't have visitors unless you went down to the lobby, and then you could have a visitor down there. So it was a safe place for girls to live and work. And so we lived there. And so I lived, 60, 70 miles away from my parents. And I was like 17 when I graduated and got a job. So I was young. And then later, when I got married, I didn't live in the same town for very long, and that marriage didn't last. But when I married Richard, my husband now, I met him down in Missouri. My brother had moved to Missouri, and when my marriage broke up, I moved down where my brother was to get away from, he was kind of an abusive alcoholic. So I ended up down in Missouri, met my husband at church, and we lived in Missouri for a long time. For a while, we moved to Tulsa and lived there. We lived in Texas for a very short amount of time, and we moved back to Missouri again. But my parents, living in Iowa, We didn't live close to them. We, were independent. We weren't dependent. And, I feel bad in some ways because I wish I had more time with my parents, closer to my parents than what I did. But it came up all the time. Can't lost his pants in the cornfield, do it on your own. And so when it came to raising my children, I encouraged their independence. I taught them how to do things and then expected them to do things on their own if at all possible. If they needed help, I was there for them. But I very definitely encouraged independence, encouraged them to do things on their own. For a while there, our kids were little, and they would, if they needed a sandwich, they made it themselves. I didn't make everything for them. And my sister-in-law said, you let them go in there and, do that yourself. What if they make a mess? I'm like, then they can clean it up. I just encouraged their independence. So now they have the confidence to live on their own and to live across the country and to have adventures. And Jacob joined the military when he was 27, and now he's retired and got a government job doing something else. I think he's working for the Veterans Administration or something like that. And then Joel, he lived in town for a while, but then he has always wanted to live abroad, always. He went to Bible college and wanted to be a missionary to Japan, and he'd always been interested in Asian culture. And he ended up marrying a lady who is Filipino, and she was living in Abu Dhabi, and so he went over there and got a job. He worked for, 10 or 11 years here as a school counselor. He didn't get married till he was to her until he was in his 40s, but now he's got 2 kids. They live abroad. They like to travel. It's a little scary because they're living in the Middle East now, and there's a war going on. Since he went over there, I got a message, and they said that they came home for about 2 weeks. Came here for about 2 weeks to visit because Richard's health was not so great. We were gonna go back over there, but Richard was fainting and falling and in the hospital, and so they decided they would come and spend some time with us, and I'm so grateful they did. But Joel's not afraid to live abroad, and Jacob moved to the East Coast where his wife's family was, and I don't blame them. I did the same thing. I was an independent person, and they're independent. It's kind of sad in some ways because I miss my kids so much. I poured my life into them. That's how they ended up the way they were. I took raising children seriously, and raising them in the Lord. Tried to follow the Bible's way of doing things, and I disciplined them, but I also mentored them and had long conversations with them about life and living, and they still call and ask me about stuff. So, I have relationships with them, but they live on their own. They do their own thing. I'm sure I've made mistakes. My parents made mistakes, although I had wonderful parents. There were things they did that I made sure that I didn't do. I always explained the why of things to my kids because I always wanted to know the why, and I didn't always get it. And my parents were not, although I think they were Christians and they loved God, they didn't have the same understanding that I did. And so some of the questions that I had as a kid, I didn't get the best answers for, and I tried to do that better for my kids. I don't fault them for that because they couldn't explain to me what they didn't know. But all we can do is the best we can do, and we are going to make mistakes as parents. And we just need to let our kids know we're not perfect. We do the best we can do, and I hope they can do better. I think my daughter is a better mother than I was. My son is an awesome father to his grandson. He pours his life into him just like I poured my life into, in a different way. They poured their life into him in a different way. I'm sure Jacob, I think, wishes we could have been to his ball games more, and so he is so much into taking care of Zay and making sure he is involved in sports and any kind of activities, and he's there for him no matter what. And I just love seeing how my kids are doing a better job than I am, and I'm glad they're doing a better job than I did. But they all know Kent lost his pants in the cornfield, so that's how we were brought up. And all of our kids, all of my brother's kids are all independent, all of them. And most of them all have held good jobs and stayed out of major trouble anyway. They're all, well, some of them may have gotten lost along the way just a little, but most of them all found their way back pretty fast. So if you have any questions about anything that we've done that may have made things easier or better, or just leave them in the comments and I'll be glad to answer them. And this is just as a result of people showing an interest in the fact that my kids are independent and I have been independent, lived that kind of a life. Still am living an independent life, and hope I can continue. I'm 71, so hoping I can continue to live an independent life for as long as possible. And if I can't, I know my kids will be there for me. I don't want them to have to be burdened by me, but they'll be there for me if I need to have them. So anyway, sun's up. We're gonna have to start working on garden. We've got quilting to do. We've got projects going. So hopefully some of that will be there in the future for us to work on to show on the YouTube channel. And we appreciate all of you who have subscribed. Oh, one more thing. Joel is trying to get subscribers. His channel is Happily Ever Hunter. And he said that he'll eat a balut if he can get 150 subscribers, and I don't think he's too far away. So if any of you would care to check him out and subscribe to his channel, go ahead. You'll find some life in Abu Dhabi if you do that. Okay, bye.